So here's our first Canistel tree. Canistel is an interesting fruit. It's related to, like sapodilla and mamey sapote and those kinds of fruit. It's sort of like when it's ripe, like a baked sweet potato with some tropical flavors in it. Very tasty. I like it a lot, but it isn't a juicy fruit. It's, more of a, sweet potato, baked sweet potato consistency. So I got this tree years ago at a plant sale, and it was a seedling tree, and you can grow Canistel from seed, but you never know exactly what the fruit will be like. Unfortunately, this fruit was very small. It was tasty, but it was very small. Har had a variety called Aurea, and I really liked that variety. So years ago, I asked him to top work this tree to his variety. And that worked out well until we got a hurricane. Unfortunately, this tree got clobbered, so we had to cut it back. He came again and grafted some Aurea to the tree, and he did 4 scions and I did 2, and both of us got 100% takes. This only encourages me. It took me a few years to get around to it, to grow seedlings out and everything, but I did want to try grafting Aurea on, potted seedlings. So anyway, let's go take a look at that. Here's my first graft on a seedling tree. This I did a few months ago, and I used a top cleft graft right up there, slightly offset because the scion was smaller in diameter than the base plant. But here we have, the growth that's coming right out of the end, and then it also shot out a bud off of the side. Right here we have another shoot coming out of the seedling. So this is definitely a case of trimming back the shoot that came off of the rootstock. You don't want too much energy to go to new growth that you don't want. So keep an eye on that whenever you're grafting anything, really. If the base plant starts sending out new growth, cut it back so that energy can go to the top. Anyway, that is my first and oldest Canistel graft. Then I decided to try, this is a little bit later on, a side veneer graft. And that one worked out great too. Right now, I think I'll wait for these leaves to get bigger and mature a little bit before I cut back, to the graft. But what I can do right now is cut the new leaves off, because the new leaves are not really adding any food. They're actually consuming food from the plant. So I'll cut those off. These older leaves can continue to make energy, which hopefully will go to this new growth. So after those 2 trials there, I did a little experiment. And this I grafted, I actually dated this one. Sometimes, most of the time, I don't date my grafts, which is unfortunate because, I often wonder when I grafted. But this I grafted on the 11th of August. And the scion that I used was a prepped scion. And I prepped it the same way that I prep scions, mango scions. And that is to cut off the leaves and, wait at least a few weeks and then actually cut the scion and put it on the rootstock. And this was a last minute what the heck, try something different, even though I don't have the right supplies right in front of me. And so I just had a random bag, and I thought, well, stick it on there, and I'll try using a scion that had partial leaves on it. So I haven't even looked at this yet, so this is going to be new to me also. So it's not looking great. I cannot tell if it's alive or dead, but I do see we've got some shoots coming out of the side here, on top of the leaves, so those need to go, because if those stay on, if this is alive, it certainly is not going to survive. So I'm just going to break off the new growth, and we'll see. I'm not really hopeful that this is still alive, but I have been fooled on sapodilla and such, and so maybe this is going to be one of those cases where it actually lives. We'll just have to see. But I can tell you that this worked out well for these two grafts. And you know, one thing that I would recommend is leaving leaves on the rootstock, because that keeps feeding the roots. If this particular graft fails, it will be probably because I didn't leave leaves on the rootstock. It was a much younger rootstock, so I don't know. Well, hopefully these leaves will be enough to feed the roots and we'll have another plant. But for now, the first two were the ones that are sure things. Two aureas in progress, and this one has a little bit further to go. So I'm definitely encouraged by my first two aurea grafts. Actually, Canistel of any kind, but these two are definite, like sure things. They are going to grow up and be wonderful plants. I have Canistel growing around the grove, but I've had some calls for this particular variety, and so at least I have two plants that are almost ready for sale, and I'll be working on more.